All right, let me just get straight to this build. This is an ultimate Sharen build, mainly focusing on ad clear. So if you enjoy mobbing enemies with your abilities and getting tons of critical hit damage with your first ability and your third ability, then this build is for you. For the Transcendent module, be sure to go for the ambushed module because it would modify your second, your third, and your passive ability. So whenever you kill an enemy when you're in camouflage mode, it will return the user to the same state. So whenever you get kills, you are still going to be invisible. And while the camouflage is active, you're going to move more quickly and your shock bomb skill is converted into an attack skill. So by default, without having this module, it basically just stuns the enemy, which is called a shock nuts. But if you have ambushed on, it's a damaging explosion. So we're most likely going to be using this ability to basically become an ad clear destroyer. And let's just say if the enemy doesn't die, it would inflict electrocution on them periodically. For the sub module, you can choose any sub module you like, whatever you prefer, but for me, I like going for long distance maneuvering. So you are going to need to use two modules that is based on skill cooldown. And the first one is Nimble Fingers, which decreases your cooldown, of course. And the second one you're going to want to put is MP Conversion. So once you have these two modules, it would bump your cooldown all the way down to 13.8 seconds instead of it being 45 seconds. And for your third ability, it will be 4 seconds. For your second ability, it will be 6 seconds. And your first ability, it will be 2 seconds. So here's what the passive does for the Transcendent module. I totally forgot to mention it, but I'm talking about it right now. So when defeating an enemy or landing a critical hit in the camouflage state, there is a 30% chance for you to enter the camouflage again. While you are in the camouflage state, using a skill to kill an enemy will return the user to the camouflage state. The damage will also increase when the enemies won't focus on you. So as you're going invisible, every enemy around you will not pay attention to you because you're invisible, and it will increase your damage up to 15%, but we do have another module that will increase our skill power damage even further. And that module is called the Dangerous Ambush. Whenever you're landing a skill attack while the enemy is not targeting you, your skill power will be increased by 24.9%. The other part doesn't matter. That's if you're only using this build for bossing, but mainly you're using this for mobbing, which also stacks with the passive, which is called Caught in Ambush. The only health module you're going to need to put, this is preference, you don't really have to put it, but I chose to put Battle of Stamina just to increase my active camouflage duration. But if you are dying a lot, you can change this module to HP amplification, which will give you plus 227.2% max HP rather than 122.3%. Again, I chose to put this module just to increase my active camouflage. The next module, which is called Skill Expansion, ties to our third ability just to increase the area of the explosion whenever it hits targets. And it's now going to be a radius of 6.7 meters instead of 3.5 meters. So the bigger boom. The next two modules are Focus on Fusion and Focus on Electric. These two modules will also decrease your skill cooldown even further by 6.1%, and it would also increase your electric skill power and your fusion skill power, which in case you'll deal more damage to enemies, because her abilities are electric and fusion. Because her fusion abilities are your first ability, your third ability, and your fourth ability. And all of those three abilities are damaging abilities, so that's why I chose to put Focus on Fusion. And now the cooldown for our passive is now 8.3 seconds instead of 13 seconds. So now we could be able to spam our third ability and our first ability non-stop. The next two modules you're going to need to put is Skill Concentration and Skill Insight to increase your skill critical hit rate and your skill critical hit damage for your first ability, your third ability, and your fourth ability. And last but not least, for the last module, be sure to go for Front Lines to increase your skill critical hit damage even further and also a little bit of your skill critical hit rate. And we are using an ultimate weapon that will increase our skill critical hit rate even further by 115%. And the weapon that I'm talking about is Blue Beetle. If you don't know what the unique ability does, whenever you're using a fusion skill, in our case, it's our first ability, our third ability, and our fourth ability, it will grant yourself the unique ability called Arcane Energy with a set chance. But for me, it's a guarantee because I have it maxed out for the unique ability. So I do recommend maxing this thing out because here's what it does. The trigger rate is a guarantee, which is 100%, and it will last up to 10 seconds, and it will increase your skill critical hit rate by 115%. This also stacks with Skill Insight, so we're going to to be getting more of a chance to activate our skill critical hit damage with our abilities. What's really cool about the blue beetle is that you don't really need to max it out. You can if you want to like optimize your damage even further, but I just found out that you don't really need to. But you can use this module if you like, called electric circulation. Upon inflicting electrocution, it would increase your electric attack by 89.6% for 5 seconds. It's not mandatory, but you can just change it as you please. Here's what I was using for the inversion reinforcement, is to go for this one on recovery, because this one grants one of the following effects for every 45 seconds. So basically it just restores MP, and you have a chance to get any of these three every 45 seconds. And this one just gives your weapon electric rounds, because why the hell not? And on the hunt trait, I went for this one, that whenever we defeat an enemy, it would grant the neural focus augmentation effect that will increase our MP by 0.4% and our MP recovery modifier by plus 1.5% for 30 seconds, and the max amount of stacks you can hold is 5. So here's the God Roll Reactor for Sharen, and it's the one that you're seeing on screen. You're going to want to go for a yellow skill critical hit damage and a yellow skill cooldown, and the reactor is called the Tingling Mixture Reactor. So for the external components, I am using the Slayer set, and if you have all 4 sets, it will increase your skill power up to plus 26.1%, but the skill cost will be plus 15%, so it's going to cost more whenever you're activating your abilities, and it's going to give you more rounds in the mag and more general rounds and all that. But mainly we're getting extra skill power damage. I forgot to show you guys what I was using for the stats for the auxiliary components, so I'm just going to show you because I don't want to waste your guys' time. So for the auxiliary power, max HP, MP out of combat. For your sensor, go for max MP and also MP in combat. And on your memory, go for MP recovery modifier and also go for defense. And for your processor, it doesn't really matter, but if you care about shield, go for max shield. And the other stat for the processor doesn't really matter as well. You can just choose whatever you like. But the main priority, go for max MP for your sensor. So let's just say you're dealing with a single target enemy that has a bunch of health. So here's what you need to do when it comes to using this build on a single target enemy. So what you're first going to want to do is activate your camouflage, then activate your third ability. And if you are invisible again, like me, melee it and deal more damage to that enemy. So basically second ability, third ability, then first ability. And if you still are invisible because of that 30% chance, just keep pressing your first ability because you're going to be getting that extremely quickly, as what you're seeing right now. I'm getting it very fast. So I mainly went for my third ability first to activate this module, which is called electric circulation. And then once that is procced, I can use my first ability, because your first ability will deal massive amounts of damage because of this buff on your second ability called ambush, because it will increase your outgoing damage by 100%, and it would also increase your skill critical hit rate by 22%, and same thing for your firearm, but mainly for our skill critical hit rate. So that's why on the screen, as what you just saw when I was dealing damage, I dealt like 10 million damage. So for the mobbing part of this build is mainly simplistic. It's just easy to understand. All you would have to do is activate your second ability and then go to the enemies and kill them, and as they die, you can just keep pooping out your third ability non-stop until you run out of MP, and then go find MP and then rinse and repeat basically. So either landing a critical hit or killing an enemy will give you a 30% chance for you to go invisible. Let me just show you the damage numbers for our fourth ability. I'm gonna go invis. I have my blue beetle activated. Shoot it, bada bing, bada boom. But look at all that damage numbers. It's pretty crazy, and it's still ticking, which is kind of absurd. If you guys would like to see more build videos in the first Descendant, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like and sub button. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day, evening, or afternoon. Take care and peace.